All right, let's dive into one of the most intense and, honestly, brutal power grabs in the entire Old Testament. This is the story of a commander named Jehu, who was given a divine mission to completely and utterly wipe a royal dynasty off the face of the earth. Buckle up. Just imagine getting a message like that. That single, chilling command comes from our main character, Jehu. And wow, it's an order that takes a political coup and turns it into something straight out of a horror story. It makes you ask right away, who is this guy? And who on earth is he talking to?
So to really get a handle on this level of brutality, we have to understand the mission. See, Jehu wasn't just some ambitious guy acting on his own. He was anointed to carry out a divine prophecy, the total destruction of the corrupt royal line of King Ahab. We're talking root and branch. This wasn't just a coup, it was meant to be a holy purge.
But there was a huge problem. Jehu's first target, Ahab's 70 sons, all the heirs to the throne, they weren't just sitting ducks. No, they were tucked away safely inside the capital city of Samaria, a fortress surrounded and protected by the most powerful officials in the entire kingdom. A direct attack? Yeah, that was pretty much impossible.
And this is where we see Jehu's terrifying strategic mind at work. Instead of using swords, he uses psychology. First, he sends a letter that's basically a taunt, daring the officials to pick a new king from Ahab's sons and fight him. Well, they're absolutely terrified. They immediately write back and surrender, saying, "We'll do anything you say." And that's when Jehu springs the trap. He sends a second letter, forcing the prince's own guardians to become their executioners. He's making them prove their new loyalty with blood.
And the result of this gambit? It's chillingly effective. In one single move, Jehu not only gets rid of all his rivals to the throne, but he makes the entire ruling class of the capital city complicit in his coup. He's building his kingdom on a foundation of pure, calculated terror.
And the officials? They did it. Faced with Jehu's unstoppable momentum, and let's be real, a threat to their own lives, they made their choice. They murdered all 70 of the young men they were supposed to protect. The text is so blunt about it. It was a complete and total slaughter. Now just try to wrap your head around the scale of this. 70 heads, delivered in baskets as if they were some kind of grotesque harvest. Jehu didn't just want them dead. He forced the kingdom's leaders to physically carry the proof of their obedience and the proof of the old regime's end right to his feet. But he doesn't even stop there. He's a master of political theater. For maximum impact, he orders the heads to be piled up at the city gate, the center of public life. Can you imagine the horror of walking into the city the next morning? The message couldn't be clearer. The house of Ahab is over. I'm in charge now. It is a masterclass in ruling by fear. So, with all the heirs dead and the leadership completely terrified, Jehu then finishes the job. He goes on a rampage, hunting down and killing anyone with a shred of loyalty to the old king, his top advisors, his close friends, even his personal priests. The text makes it a point to say he left no survivor. Okay, so wiping out the royal family, that was only half the mission. The other part was religious, to completely eradicate the worship of the god Baal, which had become widespread in Israel. And for this part of the plan, Jehu's going to use a totally different weapon, deception. It's brilliant in a deeply terrifying way. Jehu stands up and publicly declares that he's a huge fan of Baal. In fact, he says he's going to be an even bigger supporter than King Ahab ever was. He announces this giant national festival for Baal and makes it mandatory for every single worshiper to attend. It's a trap, and he's using their own faith as the bait. And you know what? The trick worked perfectly. I mean, perfectly. Believing they had a new royal champion, every single follower of Baal in the whole country showed up. Not one person stayed home. The temple was packed, totally full from one end to the other. Everyone Jehu wanted to destroy was now in one building.
And then he springs the trap. It's so methodical. First, he does a final check to make sure none of his own people are inside. Then he stations 80 of his best soldiers outside with the ultimate motivation. If you let even one person escape, it's your life for his. The moment the sacrifice starts, he gives the order. His soldiers storm the temple and kill everyone. And to finish it all off, they tear the temple down and, just to add the final insult, turn the site into a public toilet to desecrate it forever.
So Jehu's bloody mission is complete. He's wiped out the house of Ahab and the worship of Baal, just like he was commanded. But what kind of king does a man like this become? Well, his 28-year reign turns out to be a real study in contradictions. First, for doing exactly what he was told to do, Jehu gets a divine reward. He's promised that his own dynasty will be secure, that his sons and grandsons will rule Israel for 4 generations. In the world of the Old Testament, that is a major, major blessing. He did the job.
But here's the twist. Look at the scorecard. On the one hand, huge successes. He fulfilled the prophecy, and Baal worship was gone from Israel. But on the other hand, the text tells us he wasn't very careful about following God's law himself. He allowed other kinds of idol worship to continue, and during his reign, Israel actually started to lose territory to its enemies.
And this really is the central puzzle of Jehu, isn't it? He was a brutally efficient tool for carrying out a divine plan, and he was rewarded for it. And yet, he was also a pretty flawed king who didn't live up to the very laws he so violently enforced for others. It really makes you wrestle with a tough question. What does it mean when a divine mission is carried out by a very imperfect man? The story of Jehu doesn't give us any easy answers, and that's probably what makes it so unforgettable.